Now in JavaScript events, there are certain behaviors you need to know. I'll add some new HTML code in here, and this code will result in creating two divs. And I added some styling here just to make them different sizes. And you'll notice that I have this inner div, the smaller one, which sits on the green div, the outer div here, which is yellow, of course. And yeah, the outer div holding this inner div. And they are also nested like this in the JavaScript, the HTML code, so that the smaller div here is inside the bigger one. Let's say I want to add a click listener to the yellow div here, so the inner one, which has an ID of inner. I can select this div by using my query selector, and I'm selecting by ID, which I do with a hashtag, as the CSS selector for selecting IDs also uses a hashtag. I can then add an event listener here. Listen to a click event, for example, and then I'll name it inner listener. Now, of course, this doesn't exist yet, so I will create this function named inner listener, and I'll get the event object here. And in here, what I want to do is I want to log clicked inner, and this, of course, should be inner. The ID is inner, not ID. If I now run this code and I click on the yellow div here, you see clicked inner. If I click on the green one, you don't see anything. So this works. However, if I add another event listener to the outer div, I'll name it outer listener. And of course I have to select this div here by the ID outer, which is set up here. And I'll copy my listener here, outer, clicked outer. Now, one interesting question is, where does this event argument here come from? JavaScript passes this event argument, this event object, automatically to your listeners. And this object will depend on the type of event. So there are mouse click events, mouse enter events, different types of events to which you can listen, and all those types will have their own properties and methods which you can access on the event object you're getting passed here. You don't have to use this object, but you may. To find out more which properties and methods are available for each event object, you may A, either log it to the console and have a look there, or B, and again, I mean this serious, this is a good approach, Google for JavaScript mouse click event, and you'll find articles covering all the properties and methods you have available there. For now, it's only important to know you're getting this passed automatically when handling or listening to events in JavaScript. And I click on run. What do you think will happen if I click the yellow div here? I get inner and outer. Now you probably expected only to see inner. And if I click the green one, you only see outer. But why do we see both if I click the yellow one? The reason is that events in JavaScript by default propagate, which means if I click on the yellow one here, I also, of course, kind of click on the green one, since the green one holds the yellow one. And the event propagates up from the yellow div, which is the deepest nested element possible in which I click, up to the other elements holding this, well, clicked element. So the green one in this case. Therefore, both event listeners are fired since I technically click on both. But what if I don't want to trigger the green event listener? I only want to trigger the yellow one. Well, then I have to go to the inner event listener function here. And I have to use my event object, and here I can call stop propagation. By calling this method here, I make sure that the event doesn't bubble up. So it isn't continuing up to the next element. it stops. It's handled with this listener, and all other listeners won't get a chance to handle it. So now if I run this, and if I click on the yellow one, you only see clicked inner, and on the green one you see clicked outer. But you don't see this double handling if I click on the yellow one. And this might be the behavior we want. So stop propagation is a very important method here. You can also check if the event has the goal of bubbling up. So this is how you call it, that it travels up over all the different layers of elements until there is no higher layer, by accessing event bubbles. If I run this and click on the yellow div, you see true. That is why we have to stop the propagation, because otherwise it would bubble up and also trigger the event on the green div here.